guys, it's Liv and Beau. This may not last long because he tends to be pretty fussy. And he's just waking up from his nap, so he's probably going to want to feed. But this is a very, very long overdue update, and I apologize. It's been pretty crazy, and I'll explain a little bit of that as I get into the video. So, that's a good poop. Okay, we're back. So that lasted all of 1 second before we had an explosive poop and then screamed to be fed. So we're a bit more satisfied now for the time being and ready to fill you guys in. So I'll start with, obviously, you guys might have seen our birth video. If not, I'll link it up above. But it was sort of not how I expected everything to go. Obviously, we had a scheduled C-section date. I knew it was possible that we could go naturally before then. I obviously hoped that would be the case. On the day that all of this was happening, I was convinced, absolutely convinced, that it was just him turning from the transverse position down to a head-down position. At least I was hopeful. Turns out I was very wrong, and so the whole, I think that what was most odd about it all was that I didn't have time. You hear about like labor and people going for hours and hours and hours, and I knew that if I went into labor that we would just basically go straight in for a C-section, that they wouldn't wait because of the high risk of being transverse. But because I didn't think I was in labor, getting to the hospital and then just immediately going into the operating room was a really surreal experience. I mean, it was just kind of, it hit me in the face a little bit. I was in shock. And I think that shock kind of continued on through them putting him in my arms. I honestly couldn't believe he was here, and I think there was a bit of a disconnect because he was a C-section delivery, and you know, 1 minute I'm just kind of laying there and knowing I'm pregnant, and the next minute they're holding a baby up and telling me that's my baby, and all the while I still think I'm pregnant because I still should be pregnant because I'm not even quite, I was just shy of 38 weeks, so it's 37 something. But yeah, so anyways, it was a little bit like a whirlwind, and I'm sure everyone describes their birth as a whirlwind, so I'm probably not special in that regard. It just did feel very kind of like out of the blue. I will do a birth video experience, maybe I won't go too much more into that, but the hospital recovery was okay. I was in a lot of pain, and I'm sure that's very, very common with a C-section. I hate hospitals, but we were very, very fortunate to be in a suite, and it was very comfortable, and I was very happy in my room and my space. That made a big difference for me, so I was able to sort of relax into it. That being said, obviously when you're in the hospital environment, people are in and out of your room every 2 seconds, and I was not getting very much sleep between feeding Beau and getting my vitals checked, getting his vitals checked. In the first little while, we had some feeding issues. He wouldn't latch right away. So we were using Express, I don't know, no, we didn't, did I Express? I pumped, and they used a syringe to feed him, and then we ended up getting a breast shield. We had a lactation consultant come in and everything, and then we got on a breast shield, and we got him at least onto the boob, which was really good. So he was feeding and gaining weight. He did drop almost 10% from his birth weight. So when they weighed him at birth, down just after the operation, after the C-section, he was 5 pounds 15 ounces. By the time we got to the room 2 hours later, they weighed him again. Now, I don't know what he weighed, but I do know that from birth weight at just after the C-section to the day of our discharge, there was a drop of 10% in his birth weight. But from when we got to our suite 2 hours after his birth to when we left, there was only a 3% loss in weight. So a bit of discrepancy there. They weren't too worried about it because of that. So That being said, he is very, very, very light. He's in the like 2 percentile for his weight. He's up above 8 now, 8 pounds, which is good, obviously, but he's still really low on the curve. So we're trying to get him feeding as much as possible. We have had continued struggles with breastfeeding. He is still on the Shield. We had a tongue tie release, which I honestly had a breakdown about. I was sobbing and just feeling guilty, and yeah, it was a really hard decision to go ahead with it, and obviously we still don't know, he's still on the Shield, so we don't know if it's made all that much of a difference. I try offering without the Shield, but he's not too keen on taking it. He would take the breast without the Shield prior to the surge, or prior to the tongue tie release, and now he won't. So they do say sometimes it gets worse before it gets better. The thing with before, he would take it, but he would just chomp down on it and basically bite my nipple. So, I mean, he wasn't really feeding. It wasn't like an effective way of breastfeeding anyways. So hopefully when he does take it, he takes it well. So anyways, the breastfeeding journey continues. I think that any mom well, not any mom, I'm sure some people do have the luxury of having an easy journey with breastfeeding, but as many moms know, it isn't easy and it's hard and it's a learning process. So we're sticking to it, and he's fully breastfed at the moment, and I hope to continue that. But obviously, fed is best, in at least my opinion. So we'll continue to check his weight and watch his weight closely, and hope that he grows steadily. Right now, so far, he's doing well. So it's just that we want to continue along that and potentially improve on that. And as far as my recovery, as we left the hospital, so when we were in the hospital, we had the option of staying an additional night. And like I said, I don't like being in the hospital. It was tough because people were in and out of our rooms, and I was feeling pretty good. I just didn't realize that I was on, you know, super duper painkillers, and that I wouldn't have those painkillers when I left. I didn't really make that connection, and I also didn't really think about the fact that, you know, I was in an adjustable bed and all of these things that factor into feeling good in the hospital. So when we got home, I kind of immediately regretted it. I was hoping to be able to sleep in our own bed, but we have a Tempur-Pedic, and I couldn't get in and out of it. I could get upstairs to get into it. Stairs obviously aren't ideal, but it was the bed itself that I tried to get into it and just burst into tears. I was in so much pain. So we spent the first week or two on the couch and down here, and Eric slept on the floor on cushions, the poor guy, but we made it through. So that was sort of our journey coming home. Maybe I don't tolerate pain very well. You burping? It's possible I don't tolerate pain very well, but at the same time, I also don't like taking painkillers. So I found recovery very difficult. I did not take the Tylenol with codeine, or the T3s, or what, I don't know what they were. I didn't take them at all. So I was taking ibuprofen. So I went from being in the hospital on like awesome painkillers to coming home and being off of everything. So I think that that really contributed to me feeling awful. But I think part of my philosophy with that is that if you feel the pain, you're less likely to overdo it, and you allow your body to heal more adequately. That, as well as the T3s, cause constipation, and that's already kind of an issue postpartum, so I didn't really want to compound onto that. Okay, wow, take 3. I had to feed I had to feed Bo the boob again, and now he's down napping. So to go back to the painkiller thing, that one of the main reasons, and I didn't mention this, that I didn't want to take them, the Tylenol 3 with codeine, is because it can go through your breast milk to the baby, and obviously that's not ideal. I think that if you need them and you take them, there shouldn't be any guilt. I'm not trying to judge anyone for their decisions. Just for me, it didn't feel like something I wanted to do, and I was happy to just be in the pain if it eased my mind, which it did. So that's that. Anyways, I'm still healing. I've been wearing a belly wrap since the procedure. When we left the hospital, I had to go back. It was quite an ordeal. So we got home, and then the next day I started having intense pain. Every time I stood up, it felt like this like whooshing of like blood. If like honestly, what it felt like blood would pool, and then when I would stand up, it just would like run off or drain or whatever. So they were concerned that either I had an infection or possibly I don't remember what it's called, where there's a pocket of blood. So they did end up putting me on antibiotics, but I had to go for a CT scan just to make sure that there wasn't something wrong or serious going on, like appendicitis, because it was on that side. So yeah, that was a bit of a nightmare because they called in the order for the CT, and we went, and they hadn't received it, and they were closed and all this stuff, so I had to go back the next day. It was, and I mean, to leave your baby, because I had to go to the hospital to do it, and you don't want to take your newborn. Anyways, it was a long story short. I don't want to go into that whole thing again. I don't really want to relive it. But we got that done, and I was fine, so that was good. It was just obviously something normal, within the realm of normal. But it definitely wasn't easy. And then so we got discharged, I want to say on Wednesday, and then that was Thursday, Friday, and then the hurricane hit. So we live in Houston, and as many of you know from news coverage, we got hit with a devastating hurricane, and we got to weather that storm with a newborn. We felt very, very lucky that he came when he did, because if we had been stuck during the hurricane with me being transverse, it may have just been even more stressful. I mean, it was stressful with a newborn, but we were very prepared. Eric ran out, and he got this is why we were really preoccupied when we got home. He ran out and got supplies, and we were stocked up, and basically we just hunkered down. We were very lucky we didn't get flooded, and we remained with power throughout the storm. But there was numerous tornado warnings in our area, so we weren't sleeping, because basically like if a tornado comes through, it just can flip the house. So it was good that we were downstairs and not upstairs, because that's kind of what they were doing. They weren't kind of blowing through, they were just clipping houses. But it was scary. I mean, you have a newborn, and I had just had surgery, and dealing with the storm. So anyways, that was part of our recovery process, and we got through that, and then it's just been sort of a slow go getting better. Eric was home. He was with me, obviously, the first full week we were in the hospital, and then I was back and forth to the hospital. And then he was working from home, kind of on the couch for the next week. And then the third week, he worked from home up in his office, but full-time. So it was really, really nice to have him around and helping. And it was difficult when he went back to work, because obviously, like, I need to be doing more to take care of him, and you know, I have the breast shield, so I have to go wash that and all these different things. So yeah, it wasn't easy, and I think that, I mean, I had a little bit of a longer incision than I think is standard, just because he was transverse, and I was lucky, though, grateful that I didn't have a vertical incision. So So what they were thinking was going to happen is that I'd have a horizontal, like bikini line, external scar, but internally they would cut vertically. They were able to do it horizontally, but I think it was a little bit more severe than normal. And I think that's made my recovery a little bit more difficult. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I think everyone's also just different. So we're coming up to 6 weeks postpartum, and I'm still wearing my belly band often. I'm still in pain. I still just don't feel very capable of much. I get really low energy, or not. I don't even think it's energy related. I think it's just like I'm in pain, so it zaps your energy when you're in pain and you're kind of nursing your body. So yeah. Anyways, on top of all of that, we have to leave the country because we're dealing with some visa stuff. So we've had to get, you know, all of those paperwork done. We had to get him a passport, and now we're having to leave the country and come back through so we can go onto the new visa. not ideal. And we've been flip-flopping between whether we take a flight back to Canada or whether we drive to the Mexican border. Neither of those are things that I want to be doing right now. So my dad comes into town actually this evening, and I'm very excited to see him. It was kind of like one of those things like, do we fly and leave my dad here? Well, you know, he came all the way from Ireland, or do we kind of like pack up and all go on a little bit of a road trip? So I think we're leaning towards the latter. We actually have flights booked, but I think we'll cancel them and just eat the cost of the rebooking fee. We'll use those tickets probably before the end of the year anyhow, or early next year. But it's been a whirlwind, and it's been hectic and chaotic, and I know that I'm forgetting things. There's other stuff that's been going on that I'm forgetting at the moment, but it's been a lot to deal with. So anyways, all in all, we obviously feel just so beyond happy and thrilled to be experiencing parenthood. And we love Bo to death, and we can't imagine our lives without him, and we feel incredibly blessed. It's, you know, been a long journey to get here, but now that we're here, it feels like all of that was peanuts, you know, to pay off for having him in our lives. So, loving being a mom. I'm just, you know, dealing with a lot of guilt a lot of the time that I can't do more, you know, that I can't always hold him because my abdomen gets sore, things like that, you know, having to pass him off to Eric. So dealing with guilt, which I'm sure is something that I'll deal with for my whole life, you know, mom guilt is a thing, I'm sure. And yeah, just trying to do the best that we can. We're tired, but he's sleeping good chunks of time in the night, and we're getting more and more into a routine. So I think that's enough information for one day. I have so much to catch you guys up on, and that's part of why I think that this has been a bit of a longer talking video, but hopefully I will make time to do another update for you guys soon with Eric. More of Bo as he's more awake and not so cranky. He tends to be quite cranky these days, and he's feeding like a fiend. So it's hard to fit this in. It's not easy to find that time when there's other things to get done, like laundry. Laundry upon laundry. Anyways, thanks guys for watching. So sorry that it's been so long. Hopefully it won't be as long before the next update, but this video took me a good number of hours to film, so be patient as we get more settled into a routine and as I heal up and as we deal with all of our visa stuff. But maybe we'll take you along for the ride if we feel inclined or have the energy or time to put together the video. Anyways, until next time, bye guys.